and welcome. It is Friday, March 2nd. It's almost 9 a.m. It is still school vacation week, so my daughter is home, and I must pre-warn you in case you hear lots of noise and giggling in the background. My 6-year-old niece is visiting for the long weekend, so my daughter and my niece get along very well. They're the best of friends. They're playing and making noise somewhat behind me, so you may hear them. They go in and out of my daughter's bedroom, slamming the door periodically. So welcome to my coffee chat, and because the rest of my spring haul hasn't arrived yet, I got my Blitzy order, but I'm still waiting on Referral and Hallmark scrapbook. And it is currently, I'm in New Hampshire, we're currently under siege with the latest snowstorm, so we live kind of pretty far off the beaten path. I don't even know if the mail is going to come through today, so allegedly Hallmark scrapbook is going to be here today. We'll see. I'll just wait for everything and do it all together in a spring part 2 haul, maybe next week if I have to. So I don't really have anything else to show off. Again, Blitzy is here, but it's nothing really exciting, so I'll just kind of keep that aside and wait for the other stuff to come in. I have been kind of busy the past couple of days. I had a couple of custom orders come in for my Etsy shop that I had to get out, and those actually just shipped this morning. A happy announcement. My husband's eldest son, if you've watched me at all, and his wife are expecting their first children. They're expecting twins. They just did a gender reveal on Wednesday. They are identical twin boys. Their names are going to be Ren and Garrett, or Garrick with a K. Interesting enough. So it's nice to kind of know that information, I guess, especially if you're a crafter and like to work on stuff ahead of time. There's a big project that I would like to do for them, which I will probably explain once I actually figure out what I want to do with that, and I'll show you guys down the road. But I am, for my husband's daughter-in-law, she did ask me to make her some thank you cards so that she could start writing thank you notes for the gifts that are starting to come in. So I actually did a bunch of inking of stuff for that, and I just have to kind of throw them together into thank you cards. So I'll work on that this weekend. So that's the happy news. Pretty excited. The kind of sad but not surprising news. My husband did finally see his doctor. He's brand new to having medical insurance and hasn't really seen a doctor in over the past decade or so. And exactly as we expected, he is diabetic, which again is not a surprise. I've known it anyway, at least for a decade. When I was pregnant with my daughter, 10 years ago, towards the end of my pregnancy, I had a couple of weeks where I was technically considered having gestational diabetes. And, they sent me home. I had the blood glucose monitor and the strips and all that good stuff. And just for funsies, I would test his blood too. And his blood was like way worse than mine, even though I was technically the diabetic. So I've been telling him for all these years that he's diabetic, and he's like, no, I'm fine. It's like, well, I'm not really surprised. He's had this itchy spot on his leg that we thought was eczema for years, and the doctor took one look at it in his other leg, and he's like, yeah, that's diabetes. Big shock. The good news is that he doesn't seem to have what they call neuropathy. I think the nerve damage doesn't seem to be that bad. He still has full feeling in both feet and so on and so forth. So his physician doesn't think that it's that far gone that he can't do anything to correct it. So while we're waiting for his blood tests to come back and actually know the numbers to know whether or not he needs to start on insulin, we've had to do a diet lifestyle change for my husband, and the doctor wants him to do the Mediterranean diet, and because we are not wealthy people and will not be able to afford multiple carts of groceries for the family every week, we're all kind of going to try to do the Mediterranean diet. And the doctor recommended a website that I printed kind of this off for a key. And actually my husband hasn't done it yet, but everybody in the family has kind of circled what they'll eat off of this menu so that I can kind of try to find recipes that accommodate all of it. I'm probably, well, my daughter and I are pretty picky eaters, but I won't eat legumes or seafood at all. So I'm going to be harder I think. My daughter just won't eat the legumes, but she'll eat the seafood, and my husband will eat anything you put in front of him as long as it doesn't have olives in it. So, of course, it's the Mediterranean diet, right? So, so we're all pretty picky. I think it's going to be challenging to find recipes and kind of meal ideas that are going to accommodate everyone. And I'm not, my daughter and I aren't diabetic, so I don't think that it's necessarily as important that she and I stick to it as much as he does. But the doctor said a lot of things that were really surprising. I don't claim to be a diabetes expert. My one kind of experience with it was being diagnosed with gestational diabetes, and I was diagnosed with that at like 34 weeks pregnant, and I had my daughter early. She was a preemie, so I had her at 35 and a half weeks pregnant. So I was like a diabetic for a week and a half, and I'm not anymore. So we're all kind of going new to this. So the doctor said that he, wants my husband to eat lots of fruit, and of course I'm thinking, fruit as a diabetic, that that doesn't make any sense. So. But apparently it does if you're the doctor, and he wants Rod to have 10 servings of fruits and vegetables a day, so just trying to work more things into his diet. So we'll see, and trying to find some new recipes. Tonight I'm going to make, we'll see how it goes, I'm going to make some, oops, I don't know why it's not opening. Baked chicken with apples and barley is what we're going to be making tonight. If you're interested, I'll pass along the recipe, but it's olive oil, onion, red and green peppers, garlic, apple, curry powder, barley, chicken broth, chicken breast, garlic salt, and apricot jam. I'm going to substitute the apricot jam for, I think, fig jam, because that's what I have on hand. But so there doesn't seem to be too much in here that I won't eat the peppers. But I'll cook it with the peppers, and I just won't eat the peppers on my plate. I don't like them. They give me terrible heartburn, even though they're not spicy. I just don't like peppers at all. And I've never tried curry powder ever. Like, this is how much of a wuss I am when it comes to food. I am such a picky eater. I've never tried curry powder, so we'll see. I doubt my daughter and my niece will eat this. I'm gonna try to feed it to them anyway. But I have a backup bag of chicken patties in the freezer. So if this doesn't go well, I will just toss a couple of chicken patties into the air fryer for the kids. No problem. But it looks good. I wish that I didn't have to film on my on the tripod, and then I could show you my screen. If I had like a real camera, I might be able to do stuff instead of my phone. But anyway, so that's what is on the menu for tonight. Our first time giving that a try. It comes directly from the website of recipes that my husband's doctor recommends for the Mediterranean diet for diabetics. I don't know. So we're going to give that a try. If you have any experience with this diet and have any literature or websites that you would like to recommend, that would be awesome. Especially things for the diabetic and or extremely picky eaters who won't eat like half of what's on this list. I'd appreciate that. Okay. So the whole kind of reason behind this long and chatty coffee talk, coffee, yay, is I had mentioned a couple of times that I wanted to kind of share with you guys some ideas for earning a little extra money for your crafty stashes. You guys have seen recently that I had a very nice spring haul, in particular the Lawn Fawn stuff coming in, and it's not done yet. It's still trickling in as I'm waiting for the orders. And there's still a couple of things that I didn't have the money to get that are still on my wish list, and that's fine. I'll go over this again. We are essentially mainly a one-income family. I stay home with my daughter. A limited income. My husband earns salary, and that's it. The particular location he's in, there's no real opportunity for bonuses and stuff like that. So it's kind of that income, and then that's it. And I can hear the children. Sorry if you can hear it. Girls, can you close the door, please? Sure. Thank you. Yeah, you guys can go into the bedroom and just close the door. And we live, within the confines of his his income. And then of course I work from home. I sell a little bit on eBay, some stuff that I pick up secondhand here and there, and also I have an Etsy shop where I sell my cards and crafts and things like that. It's not a huge moneymaker by any means, but I have been doing it for a couple of years now, so I have, again, it's not huge, but I do have regular customers and I do have exposure, and I have very, very small social media presence of regular customers and so on and so forth. So most of my business comes from those people. Etsy is a really tough place to sell on, and I'll get into that in a little bit. So I do have a little bit of money coming in from Etsy for myself. One of my big things, if you watched any of my New Year's kind of resolution things, was this year I was going to try to spend less on crafting stuff and more on paying down some of our debt. We're also doing the Dave Ramsey Total Money Makeover. We have not like a ton, but we do have a significant to us amount of debt that we accrued. We did not have medical insurance when I was pregnant and I had my daughter, and I had a terrible pregnancy. I had, you know, my daughter was born premature. We had about $50,000 worth of hospital bills and medical bills associated with that. The hospital forgave about $20,000 worth of it because of our income, but we still had to pay off the other $30,000. And it took us like 6 years to do it. And while we were doing it, we also had our, you know, regular household bills to pay. And my stepsons were minors at the time, so we were also paying child support for my stepsons, which is not, I don't want to seem like I'm complaining. I'm a mother, I know. Like, you do your child support, you need to have your child support. My husband was very happy to continue to pay the child support and to still fund things for his sons beyond that. So this is not a anti-child support rant, but it's a lot when you have a new baby and diapers and formula and child support, and you have to pay your bills and so on and so forth. We're through that. We've made it through all of those humps. My stepsons are now adults. One of them is married and having children of his own, you know, as I was talking about before. So this was like, you know, this was years ago, but it was quite a lot. And because we have, you know, like the lower middle class, lower income bracket, we, you know, had just crappy cars that break down constantly, and they still break down constantly, by the way. My husband just paid $80 to have my car repaired yesterday for like the third time this month. So pretty much any kind of unexpected expense, like car repairs, stuff like that. My father-in-law passed away like 4 years ago, and it was very sudden, and we had like no savings. And his wife, my husband's stepmother, decided that she was not going to have him buried locally. She was going to have him buried with his parents that were out in Indiana. So, you know, she makes the shot. So we essentially had to come up with a few $1,000s to get out to Indiana for the funeral, and, you know, helping out with all of that, and just, So pretty much any kind of unexpected thing that we ever had is going on credit cards. So now we're at the point where we haven't paid child support. All of the medical bills are paid off, at least the ones associated with my daughter's birth, of course, with, you know, my husband's recent official diabetes diagnosis. I'm sure we'll get more medical bills. But so anyway, so we have all these, we have, you know, like half a dozen credit cards that are almost maxed out that we need to kind of work on paying on. So part of my thing, I'm sorry, a long story. I'm just trying to catch everybody up in case you've missed any of my previous videos. So basically my goal was to, instead of taking all of my Etsy money and blowing it on craft supplies, was to take much less of that money for craft supplies, and then mostly have my Etsy income go to paying down my debt. Excuse me, girls, shut that door, please. Okay. So anyway, sorry. And I've kind of mostly been able to do that. Sorry, the girls are right here. Girls, please go into the room and shut the door. I've mostly been able to do that, and I knew that this Lawn Fawn release was coming up, so I've been kind of doing a couple of things behind the scenes here to ensure that I had money to buy some of the things that I wanted from the Lawn Fawn release. Now, while all of this is going on, I talked about this in a previous video about a month ago. We had like $700 worth of heating bills for 1 month because we had that huge cold snap that came through and half of our bathroom froze and all of this stuff. So basically I busted ass trying to pay those off, and I did, and I finally did. So after that happened, after I paid those things off, and actually I paid them off and I paid a little bit extra so that the next month wouldn't be quite as traumatic, although we're not anticipating the bills being that bad because it hasn't been that cold again. So I did that. Plus we also got our tax return, so that helped to replenish it wasn't a huge tax return, but it helped to replenish what I had taken out of the baby step 1 of the Dave Ramsey plan, the $1,000 in savings. So it helped to replenish that, no problem. And then I was still able to use some of my Etsy money, and then I had kind of some extra monies that I had gathered towards other stuff. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that today to kind of give you guys some ideas for how you can earn a little bit extra here and there to help go towards your crafty budget. Like I said, probably the biggest one for me is probably Etsy, because that is primarily where I sell it. That is where I sell my crafts. Kind of my unspoken rule with my craft stuff is if I buy something, like let's say that I just bought this new, well I did, a stamp and die set. So let's say that it's a Lawn Fawn stamp and die set and it cost me $30, altogether. So my goal would be to turn around and, make, cards from that to my heart's content. But to make enough cards using that $30 stamp and die set that I'm selling and that has paid for the stamp and die set. So unfortunately, there's not a lot of big money or big profit in cards. So you might make, $2 on each card, that you'd sell after fees and your supplies and everything on Etsy. So as you can tell, it's a lot of work. So if you don't mind paying yourself a nickel an hour for your work, then, then that's a great way to go for it. But it's certainly not a full-time income type. I'm sure that there are people that earn full income crafting cards. I am not one of them, even though I do this like almost 24/7. I might make like a nickel an hour, by the end of the day. But anyway, so after all of the fees and everything that you pay associated with selling it, I might only make $1 or $2 per card. So let's be generous and say that I've just made $2 per card. I would have to sell 15 cards using that one set to pay for it, and I keep working at it until I do. And that's all there is to it. And I also do a couple of other kind of craft things associated with the Etsy business, party supply and so on and so forth. Sort of more of my custom order side of things, which is actually what I was busy doing earlier this week, kind of unprecedented for me. I had 3 different custom orders this week, so I'm not normally that busy. Especially this time of year is really slow. Anyway, so then there's that side of it. And it's not a huge money maker, but every year I get a little bit better. My sales improve a little bit more. Selling on Etsy is not easy. There are a ton of rules. And Etsy is not as simple as just, tossing a picture up onto the website and expecting something to sell. The Etsy search engine doesn't work unless you know what you're doing with it, meaning that you have to optimize your listing properly for the search engine, and there's a lot of research, and there's a lot of, I'm not an expert at it, but I do what I can. So it's not, if you expect some quick cash, that is not, unless you're doing something that's not cards. I'm focusing mostly on cards because that's what I do. But if you have some sort of really cool, kick-ass talent that you want to toss on there that has nothing to do with paper crafts because there's no money in there, then awesome. By all means, go for it. That's really cool. Cards are kind of a really oversaturated market. And I do have to say that on Etsy, there's no way to, at least yet, there's no real way to kind of divide what is a handmade crafted card like what we do versus somebody who has digitally designed a card and is selling a digital copy of it for somebody to buy and to print. So they're able to sell that card because there's nothing physical. It's just a download that they've decided. You know, they sell it for $2. The customer buys it, prints it off at home, pops it in the mail. That's awesome. I have this card that I'm trying to sell for $6 that I've spent 4 hours making. So there's a lot more people selling the digital kind of content and the pre-printed content than there are the handcrafted. And although there is a market for handcrafted, there's no way to divide them into two different categories when the customer is searching for them. So, you know, like the pre-printed cards that somebody has designed. So if I'm searching for a birthday card and 50,000 options pop up in the search bar, 45,000 of them are going to be pre-printed cards. So you actually have to do some extra searching for those 5,000 that are handmade, and that might be on like page 12 of 478,000. I mean, if you've ever bought anything on Etsy, you know that almost every market is just really oversaturated, and you only really, look maybe at the first 10, 12 pages before you get bored and pick something and buy it. So there you go. And that's another reason why it's important to have your listings optimized as best as you possibly can and as specific as you possibly can. Somebody might be looking for a birthday card. Maybe they're looking for a llama birthday card and you have a llama birthday card. So you just need to make sure that your llama birthday card shows up on those first 10 pages, which I won't get into. I'm not an expert in that. I'm still learning myself, even though I've been doing it for years. Etsy is constantly tweaking and reworking the software. Who knows? Anyway, it is not a huge success with Etsy. Again, my goal is to just pay for the craft supplies with Etsy. That's the minimum goal. And now that I'm reached that point where I'm making over that, I need to buy less of the craft supplies and pay more on the debt. So, so Etsy is a really good option. Again, especially if you do something that's not card related, or something that's not in an oversaturated market. Cool. Go for it. Give it a whirl. If you're interested, I can recommend a bunch of different websites to look at that can explain how it works a lot better than I can. I'm not an Etsy coach. I just play one on TV. A second place where I make income is eBay. I had an eBay store for many years, like 10 years, selling mostly women's fashion, that I source the inventory myself and then bring it home and research it and clean it and so on and so forth. And I kind of got rid of most of that, and I'll get into that in just a minute, but I still do some stuff. Like if I find something cool and I want to resell it, I'll toss it on eBay. I don't have a heck of a lot on there. I only make about $30 a month on eBay. I shut down my eBay store, so I'm just using my eBay account, but you get like 50 free things that you can list every month. So as long as I have under 50 items, I'm able to list. I have to pay commission fees on them, but I'm able to list them for free. Excuse me. So I think right now I have like a silver caviar dish that my husband and I found years ago at a thrift store. I've got some vintage Afghan patterns. I have a couple of my D-stash stuff that I mentioned earlier, was it last week, or earlier this week, that was going to go on eBay. So that's on there, and I see a couple of things have bids on it already. I haven't even looked today. So just a couple of things. I do have a few of my nicer designer pieces of clothing on here as well that may or may not ever sell, but again, it doesn't cost me anything to keep listing them on here. And I'm not willing to give them away for free, so they will sit here forever until they find the right buyer, and that's fine with me. They're not taking up too much space. For example, I have a beautiful vintage velvet Christian Dior skirt. I have a Trina Turk silk beaded dress that has a little bit of damage, but it's still absolutely gorgeous. So I have those things kind of listed on eBay. I've already paid to have them clean. They're packed up safely. They're not doing anybody any harm. I will just keep them on eBay until they find the right buyer. So just a couple of things on eBay. Again, it's not a huge moneymaker. Some months I might make a little bit more than others, but it looks like I'm averaging about $30 a month in sales on eBay. which is better than nothing. Again, it's either stuff that I'm picking up at, you know, yard sales or whatever, or something that's given to me to sell. My mother-in-law is famous for handing me piles of stuff and like, here, go ahead and sell this, and then you can have the money. And it's like, oh, sweet. And also just stuff from around the house that we don't need anymore or whatever. Like before Christmas, we cleaned Leah's room and pulled out a bunch of toys and stuff, and I pulled the ones that weren't, you know, completely crap, and listed those on eBay. I actually have one of her, what is it called? Easy Bake Oven, her Lala Loopsy Easy Bake Oven that needs to go on there. And I just have a couple other things that I'm getting to it. I'll toss them on eBay. So eBay is good. You don't necessarily need to have a store or a store subscription. eBay is not the greatest website to sell on. And I do not have time to talk about how evil they are. But if you're just selling a couple of things, then it's fine, and it's nothing really to worry about. So what happened to most of my inventory, up until a couple of years ago, I was doing mostly women's fashion, and I would carry, this is a small house, so I didn't have, you know, a massive operation, but I had about 400 pieces of inventory going in at a time. And again, these are all things that I, you know, source and clean and list and all of that stuff. In 2011, I was making about $1,500 to $2,000 a month profit from my eBay sales, and eBay just keeps changing the way that they do things and changing it so that it's no longer a really friendly place for the career small seller. The small seller just can't stay competitive with the kinds of things that eBay was requiring in order to get exposure. One of them being like, they give you a boost in search, meaning that your stuff will show up before somebody else's stuff using the search engine if you offer free shipping or free returns or something like that. And if you're a small seller just working out of your living room, you can't afford to do that. It's like, we're not Amazon. I can't afford to do that. And free returns is the worst, especially if you are especially if you're a clothing seller, because it's like, here, you know, why don't you borrow this dress for your party and then charge me to ship it back, you know, then I have to pay for you to ship it back to me after your party and you've stained it, and I've had to pay to have it cleaned again to just rent it out to somebody else. So I just couldn't do that anymore. And because I did not sign, again, they're optional things like the free shipping and free returns and stuff like that. Because I did not opt into those things, I just was not getting seen. I was getting buried. So I was going from $1,500 to $2,000 a month with 400 items to, I think when I finally closed, in the end of 2016 was when I finally said, F this. I was making $200 to $300 a month with the same amount of stuff and the same amount of work that I was putting into it. And, you know, it was almost a full-time job here behind the scenes. And as you know, even $1,500 to $2,000 a month for a full-time job is really crap money. So I was already making really crap money doing this full-time. And then, you know, super ultra mega crap money for, you know, $200 to $300 a month. So I was like, you know what, whatever. So then this leads into my next idea. I packed pretty much everything up that I had that wasn't flawed. I did have a lot of flawed inventory. You'd be surprised how many times people will buy something that's flawed if it's missing a button or has a small hole in it, whatever. You offer a great discount on it, people are still going to buy it. So, but what I did next with this stuff, the stuff had to be in perfect condition. So the flawed stuff I still kept on eBay. And most of that is gone. Now I just have, you know, a couple of de-stash things in those nicer pieces that I referenced earlier. So everything that wasn't flawed is gone. And I sent all of that, I packed it all up and I sent it to a website called swap.com. That's SWAP.com. They are basically a third-party consignment site. So the site used to be a lot better. Let me tell you what they used to do. You used to just send them all of your stuff and they would take pictures of it and they would list it for sale on their site as kind of like a secondhand thrift shop kind of awesome. And then once they got everything, all the pictures taken, you would go into your account and you would, you know, designate how much you wanted to charge for each piece, and then you go ahead and list it, whatever. It would sell. They would take they would take a huge chunk of it, but then at the end of the month you would get, you would basically get your check or your PayPal payment for whatever was left over. So that was awesome. And I was, again, I spent most of my inventory that I could there. I was making couple $100 a month. No different than if I was doing it on eBay. But then the bonus to that was I didn't have to put any work into it other than just shipping it off to Swap. And that's kind of when I got started, amping up my Etsy, because I had more free time during the day to work. So I would work more on my Etsy and my cards because I wasn't having to work so much on my eBay because that stuff was gone and somebody else was dealing for it. So you pay for them to do that. Of course, they take a huge cut of it, but the you not having to do any work part, awesome. So that worked out really well. They have since changed the way that Swap works over the course of the past couple of years, and now they set the prices on stuff and they try to clear stuff out as fast as they can. So, for example, just in February, I sold 3 pieces to them, and they let it go for so cheap, for so inexpensively, that I only got 7 cents for one piece. I got $5.60 for another piece, and I got $1.80 for the last piece. Now, I'm letting them continue to do this because I do not want them to send the stuff back to me, because I do not want to have to put it back on eBay and sell it myself. So I don't have much stuff left there. I think I have maybe less than 50 pieces in their hands still at this point. I'm just going to let them do it, and I'm not going to send them anything else again. However, I will send them. Well, I'm no longer buying stuff to resell, so that's kind of a moot point. I just won't do that. I will send them my own personal stuff from my closet and my daughter's stuff and my husband's stuff that is in perfect condition that we're no longer wearing, because I do not want to take the time to sell it, because it's a huge pain in the ass for almost no money. I would rather they do it, and I would get a couple of bucks for all of our stuff. I don't get a tax write-off for donating them to Goodwill, because we don't itemize our personal taxes, so why wouldn't I do that? Sorry, I don't want to sound like an asshole, but we donate plenty of stuff to Goodwill anyway. If something's in perfect condition, like, we have stuff that my daughter hasn't worn that still has the tags on it, it's too late to return it to the store, go to Swap. I'd rather get a couple of bucks for it than donate it at this point. Goodwill and all those places are really overpacked anyway. Again, I don't want to sound like an asshole. I think that donating to charity is a really good idea, but I would like money too. So, a couple of bucks per piece, whatever. I still donate plenty of stuff. I'm just sending the perfect condition, new with tag stuff into Swap. There you go. I said it. I don't think there's anything wrong with trying to make a few bucks on your stuff. Another alternative, I don't do because we live in kind of a crappy area, but we don't live in a crappy area. The people are kind of crappy around here. Is you can list stuff on Craigslist or a local yard sale Facebook page or something. And that's great. I say it's crappy because I've tried doing that and I get stood up like every single time. People never show up. And it's really frustrating, especially if you spent like hours or days tracking people down and then they just don't show up. It's really frustrating. So I say, screw it. At that point, I would rather just donate it because I don't even want to look at it anymore. I'm sick of being stood up. So it is a nice area, but the people can be crappy and they do stuff like that too. And you know what? From what I hear, that's kind of like everywhere. Nobody bothers to show up for anything anymore. Everybody's just very rude with other people's time. Not very nice. Let's see. But that is another legitimate thing that you could look into. And I have my Swap. You can do, for Swap, you can have the cash sent to your PayPal, or you can get credit towards buying stuff on Swap yourself. So if you have to do some clothing shopping, or you like fashion or whatever, that's an option for you too. And I think you get more in credits than you do in cash for Swap. We don't really buy much clothing very often anyway. That I would just rather have my cash. So, but my payout this time was really low. It was only $7.47, but normally I'm getting $25-30 a month still, even though with their crappy pricing system right now still. And you know what? That's like a Scrapbook Pal order right there, just by sending in stuff regularly to get rid of from around the house. And I do believe that Swap now does like DVDs and stuff too. So definitely look into it. One other thing that I wanted to point out in terms of Swap and a whole bunch of other stuff, and I'll get more into it, is that a lot of them offer referral links. If you have a friend that's interested in signing up and in making a purchase, you can send them your referral link, and then you get that money from the referral link, and your friend doesn't have to do. If your friend's going to buy anyway, why not? And Swap is one that has a referral link. And by the way, if you're interested in making a purchase on Swap, I'll put my referral link for Swap down below. It basically, if you purchase something using my link, I get, I believe I get up to $20. I'm not sure how that works exactly. And you get 20% off your first purchase of $20 or more. So that adds up. You know, if you log in and make a purchase, and if you decide that you like it, tell your friends about it and then send them your link. Those are legitimate things. They're not, you know, it's not scammy to use a referral link. It's not like a, you know, it's not like a pyramid scheme. It's like literally, if you're going to buy anyway, please use my link and buy, and that way we both get something from it. So I'll put that down below if you're interested in checking out Swap. I don't think that I've ever actually had anybody use my Swap link, so I can't tell you definitively how much you would get, but it's worth looking into. Which kind of segues into my whole other thing, is talking about referral links. So, and I don't really have a lot of people that have used them, so the jury's still out on this, but I have referral links for like everything. Definitely keep them, you know, if you have a smartphone or whatever, keep your links on you at all times. That way, if anybody's ever interested in anything you're talking about, you can be like, here's my referral link. Boom. So Ebates is another big thing that I use to earn some money. Ebates, if you are unfamiliar with Ebates, is it's an online rebate thing for online shopping. Basically, you go to ebates.com, you log into your account, you check to see if the store that you were looking on purchasing from is an eligible retailer. Let's say that I wanted to buy something on eBay. I would go to Ebates and I would click their link to open up eBay before I buy, and then I get cash back on that purchase. It's not a lot. Sometimes it's 1%, sometimes it's 2%. Occasionally they do specials where it's like 10%, or, you know, you buy something, a certain thing. They also have a referral program, by the way, where if somebody uses your link and signs up and uses Ebates, once all of that clears, and it can take a couple of months, that you get some referral bucks. I think I actually did have somebody click my link once and sign up, and that's usually around $10 to $15. Which is really thoughtful of someone to, if they're, again, if you're going to purchase it anyway or use the service anyway, might as well use somebody else's link. So that was very thoughtful of them. Mostly, and then 4 times a year, quarterly, Ebates sends you a physical check in the mail with your refund amount. It looks like in the past year I have earned $73.30 back just from using their dashboard to make my online purchases. I live in the middle of nowhere, so most of my Christmas shopping happens online. Most of my shopping for anything happens online. The downside is that not a lot of crafty places are on here. Like Joann's and Michael's are on here, but some of my favorite websites, Scrapbook Pal isn't on here, Hallmark Scrapbook isn't on here, or Simon Says Stamp isn't on here. So that's kind of a bummer that, like, it literally isn't for everything, but keep checking periodically because you never know when something's going to pop up. But eBay, Etsy, Target, a lot of those are the big ones that I use mostly. Amazon's on here. So basically, again, you just click the website that you're going to buy from your Ebates, and then you earn the rebates. They do have an app for your phone. I have some difficulties with the phone app, though. I don't know if it's just an Apple thing or not. Like, it doesn't open up. I click through the Ebates app, say I wanted to buy something from Target, and it doesn't open up the Target app. It opens up the Target browser when I need to be shopping from the Target app, and it's really difficult. So that at that point I just say screw it, and I wait until I turn on the computer, and then I just access it through the browser on my computer, and then I don't have an issue. So Ebates is really great. Again, they do have a referral link. I'll leave that down below if you're interested in checking it out. It's a real thing. $73 in 1 year is not bad. That's a couple of Scrapbook Pal orders right there. Sometimes I'll just hang on to the check. I get, $15, $16 checks at a time. I'll just hang on to it. until I need to place an order, and then I'll put it in the bank. There you go. That's a little money right there. Let's see, a couple of other things that that I can talk about is I use other kinds of rebate apps on my phone from the App Store. Ibotta, I-B-O-T-T-A, is probably the biggest one that I use. It's a grocery rebate app. Basically, if you buy something, I don't even know. Say, no, that's not even a rebate. Okay, say that I wanted to buy this pen, you know, at the grocery store, and Ibotta was offering $1 rebate for this pen. I would click that I accept the offer on Ibotta. I would go ahead and buy it, bring home my receipt. When I get home, I would have to scan the UPC on the pen to prove that I've purchased it, and then send in a photo of the receipt to prove that I've purchased it. And a couple of days later, they plunk that dollar into my account. What I like to do is I like to look at the offers weekly and kind of compare them to my grocery store circulars and whatever coupons that I have on hand and other rebate apps. And although a lot of times it's against terms of service for other rebate apps to combine coupons and stuff from other apps. So just because the rebates are technically manufacturer's coupons and they can't be combined. So be careful for stuff like that. There's a few of them that don't mind if you stack deals between different apps and manufacturer's coupons, but there's some that do. And I'm in a couple of Ibotta Facebook groups, and I have heard of a few people getting booted out of the program and losing any money that they have earned for being caught for doing something like that. So just be careful. But there's nothing wrong with combining it with a good sale at your store, or if your store is doing some kind of a bonus for that or whatever. So a couple of downsides with Ibotta, other than the fact that it is kind of annoying. By the time you get home and get the groceries away, the last thing you want to do is sit there and scan things. But they're really great in the beginning. Like, you get when you first sign up, you get tons of offers for the first couple of months, and then all your offers are really, really lame or stupid, and you're just like, nobody's ever going to buy that much stuff. A big thing, if you're a drinker, definitely check out Ibotta, because they have a whole thing for wine and spirits and beer, and there's a lot of booze stuff on there. We're not drinkers, so that's not really a big deal to us. So what I do when stuff starts to get a little lame is I just won't use Ibotta for a few months, and then they try to tempt me back, and then they start throwing good offers at me again. So Ibotta is really great. I've been using them for just over 2 years, and I think I've earned almost $600 back in rebate stuff. So, and oftentimes they'll do bonus stuff, like if you buy 15 things this weekend, you get from their list with the rebates, then you get an extra $10 in your account. So it's like, oh my goodness, that's an awesome deal. And I think it's every $20 or $25 saved up, you're eligible to pull it out and put it into your PayPal account or Venmo, which I highly recommend doing it. As soon as you hit the limit to pull money out, do it. Do not keep it in your account, because if your account, even for an accident or a glitch or whatever, for any reason, if your account is, I don't want to say compromised, but if your account is discontinued for any reason, you lose that money. And again, from these groups, I have heard, even if it's Ibotta's fault, they lose that money in their account. So, or it takes forever to go through the red tape to get it. So the second I hit that limit, and again, I forget if it's $20 or $25, I'm pulling it out and putting it in my PayPal account. So boom. And then again, that's a scrapbook pal order right there. So, and that's, just like a month, a regular month of grocery shopping, I might earn $25-$30 back. Boom, move it right into my PayPal account, and then I use PayPal to pay for my scrapbook pal order. Boom, done. Ibotta also has a referral link, and I'll leave that down below if you're interested in checking it out and downloading the app. There's a couple of other apps that I use, although not as much, because they don't have as many offers that apply so much to our family. Saving Star is one. Mobi Save, MOBI Save is another one. All just a couple of passive bucks here and there, and before you know it, you've got a couple of stamp sets. So, a couple of extra stamp sets a year that you didn't even know that you could do. So, that's really great. Definitely look into that. Okay. So, and there's referral links for all sorts of things. If you look at my description down below, I have Ebates and Honey and Holler, which if you buy anything using my Holler link, Holler is a discount kind of website. They toss points into my account that I can use towards future orders, and you can do the same thing. Tell your friends about if you've had a good experience shopping with something or using an app. Tell people about it and encourage them to use your link, and you're passively earning a little bit extra. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, so check it out for referral links. We talked about Ibotta, referral links, eBay and Etsy. We've talked about Swap. So another idea for you, and this is something that I don't do anymore, but I did confirm that it still exists. There's something called Amazon Mechanical Turk, which is an Amazon service. They call it artificial intelligence, basically. And I'm not sure that if I'm explaining it properly, so you might want to just check it out. The website is the letter M, Turk, so it's MTURK.com. Check it out. It's an Amazon service. It's a legit thing. Basically, you can sign up to be a worker, and you take projects or hits, they call it HITS, to do just little things, and then you earn a little bit of money for those little things. And by a little bit of money, I mean like sometimes it's a penny, sometimes it's 3 cents. Sometimes they're really dumb or really impossible. I remember years back, this is when I referenced earlier, we went through some really, really poor years where we just couldn't afford anything and we had to rely on the credit card. My daughter needed to upgrade from her baby car seat to a toddler car seat, and we just had no money at all to do this. And it was like $40. And for a couple of weeks, the one that we wanted to get her was $40. And for a couple of weeks, I just focused on doing my Amazon Turk to buy her this car seat. So I was doing like, write a question, for a trivia game or whatever. And then you just have to link in. You have to write the question, then you have to link what the sources are so the person that's reviewing your work can verify that it's a real thing. So basically write trivia questions for a board game. If they need somebody to write trivia questions for a board game, the board game people go to this website and they do that. So, and they sign up there and they pay you, like 2 or 3 cents to do it. So, I do like 100 of those a day, and it took like all effing day, but I made a couple of bucks. I ended up making enough to buy that car seat for my daughter. I turned right around. It was the payments through Amazon, and I turned right around and I gave the money back to Amazon and I bought the car seat. So there's a couple of just low kind of involvement things that do pay $1 something. Sometimes there's surveys on here. Some of the big payers are if you can type. If you have any experience with transcribing, if you can type, you do have to do some sort of qualification test for it. What that is, I do not know. I tried to do transcribing once. I am a terrible typist, and it took me like hours to do this like 2-minute thing, and I never wanted to do it again for any amount of money. But if you are a great typist, if you have any experience with transcribing, again, I had a really hard time with it personally. I think the video I was trying to transcribe, some people were speaking in a very thick accent, and there was a lot of background noise, and I was having a hard time what was going on. I had no experience with transcribing, though. Maybe you're awesome at it. It's a great way to earn a little extra money. I just kind of looked right now. They have one, if you can transcribe an audio that's 2 hours and 24 minutes long, they pay $110. But again, that could be like, 7 years worth of work for me. But there are tests that you have to take in order to be qualified to do stuff like that. It looks like I just clicked on it for me, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different qualifications that I would have to pick up this $110 gig. I have 0 of them. So it looks like you kind of have to earn the right, doing the stuff, doing the things to be able to do stuff like that. But you could work your way up to that. If you're a great typist and if you have any experience with transcribing, look into that. Maybe you could do a couple of them every weekend and earn some really decent money. It is, however, it's legit income, so do be prepared to claim it on your taxes. Amazon will take your social security number and will be reporting on their taxes that they have paid you. So this is not a way to earn a little extra money under the table. This is a legitimate thing, so just be prepared for that. And also be prepared if you're only making $25 a year, you still have to claim it. Technically, you probably won't owe any taxes on it, but you still have to claim it. So be prepared. It is a legitimate thing. So this is not how you would make some money under the table. But again, in some big money if you have stuff like that, or if you're just like me and you go on here, you know, there's a $20 stamp set that I want, and I'm going to spend a couple of weeks doing here and there, and I'm literally going to start stacking up the pennies and the nickels until I can buy this thing, then whatever. I haven't done it in years. I probably should get back into it because I did, it's menial and tedious little work at my skill level. Again, I'm just doing like taking the quick survey, or there was one that, years ago, I did a bunch of them. They had a bunch of, scanned images of cash register receipts. So the whole point of the exercise was to like type in what the total dollar amount was on the cash register receipt. Again, it's artificial intelligence. So whoever is collecting that data doesn't want to do it themselves. So they're just paying you to do it. So for some reason they needed to know what the total was on the receipt that was scanned. You're the one that, you're the one that did it. And I got like a penny for like doing 3 of them. And it took almost no time. And, I do a couple 100 of them. And then before I knew it, I had a good headway on that car seat. And the very last thing that I wanted to mention, and I'm so sorry that this is rambling on and on. Obviously, earning a little extra money on the side is something that I'm passionate about. And if you have any ideas that I haven't heard of or whatever, absolutely do share. We're all broke, man. But we all love our crafting supplies. So any way that we can still keep up with our hobby without being a burden on our household expenses is a definite pro for me. And I love the flexibility of it too. Say that, I've saved up some money for a craft set, and I need tires for my car. I can just use the money for my car and then start over again. It's not like any of this is earmarked for anything in particular until you want to spend it. So basically all of that is how I funded most of part 1 and most of part 2 of my spring lawn fawn and other small assorted goodies hauls, is that I did all of these things, and once I had paid the bills and replenished the savings account, and we actually just paid off a credit card and almost paid off another credit card, and all of those things all happen, and it's like, oh, well, let me see what I have left in all of my various little fun places. Oh my goodness, this week I can do this, and then the next week, the same thing. Oh my goodness, I have a little extra and I bought it, so I can do this, and that's how I did that. The very last thing that I want to mention, and is what is part of what's coming in from Hallmark Scrapbook today, is de-stash. Get rid of some of the crafty stuff that you no longer use or no longer need or no longer want. I did a de-stash video, I think it was last week, and most of the stuff from that sold. Just stamp sets and stuff that I had sticking around that I don't really use anymore, and they're not doing anybody any good over here. And I put rock bottom prices on it, and some of them were new. Somebody's like, awesome, I'll take them. Great. She paid me, I shipped them out. Boom. There's money right there from stuff that I had just sitting here collecting dust. And then I used that money to place a Hallmark Scrapbook order, which should be here today. So de-stashing is great. You can also de-stash on Craigslist, Hallmark Scrapbook, anything. I just put them on YouTube kind of on a whim, because I had mentioned to you guys a few times before that I wanted to do a little bit of a de-stash. And I know that other people do crafty de-stashes on YouTube because I buy their stuff. Because I'm also shopping those. So hey, another idea might be to consider, if you have a friend or whatever, just trade sets or buy sets with someone. If you have a friend that also loves lawn fawn, you buy this, this, and this, and I'll buy this, this, and this, and then we'll just trade, when we're done, or whatever. Jointly own, jointly invest in some craft supplies. I don't have anybody local to do that with, so sad me. Trade and share. That's always nice. I've not really even touched my coffee now. It's turning cold. So that is what I have on this little list of ideas of ways that I earned some extra money to tell you guys about. I think, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I think my spring crafty haul is including the stuff that I purchased after with the destash money, we're still probably under the $200 mark. So it wasn't it was not something that I just can't take $200 out of our household budget to do that. You know, we have bills and we have a kid and stuff and things going on. I just, you know, it's not possible, but it's not that big of a deal, and it's not traumatic to us personally and financially to, oh, you know, I had, you know, $20 eBay check sitting here. I had $30 sitting in Ibotta that I cashed out. I got my, you know, $20 swap payment and so on and so forth. And I made $400 this month on Etsy. And, you know, so most of my money went to bills, but I still had, you know, this amount left over from Etsy, and I made $30 on eBay. So when you combine all of that together, it's not really that bad. And this is all money that is not pulled out of our budget. So we're still able to pay our bills. We're still sticking to our total money makeover. Again, we just recently paid off a credit card and are almost paid off with another one, and so on and so forth. So it's definitely, unless you completely don't know what you're doing, there's no reason why you can't sign up for some of this stuff, and you can do the same thing. And I'm happy to answer any questions and try to help where I can. I am not an expert, but I'm happy to try to help with any questions that you have. So that's what I got. I apologize again for so long. This video is going to be like almost an hour long. And I really apologize. But again, kind of, I love money. I'm like Mr. Krabs here. So I love money, and any way that I can kind of earn a little bit more, save a little bit more, there you go. And I like talking about it, and I like my crafting stuff, and I like to shop, but I also like being able to pay our bills and all of these things. So we never want to, you know, I never want to be that person that's all like, oh, well, I don't know, my kid doesn't have any lunch this week, but look at all this fabulous lawn fawn that I have. So it doesn't work that way for me. Literally everything else is taken care of. And again, I need to make sure, even before, like, I'm starting to use, for example, you know, if I have $25 sitting in my PayPal account and I'm ready to place this order, I need to make sure that all of my other bills are paid, you know, that $25 can't be used anywhere else. And then I'll go ahead and place the order. So I just got lucky. We had plenty of notice that the Lawn Fawn release was coming out. We knew exactly what date it was. I was able to place a couple of pre-orders here and there as I earned a little extra money. I just got lucky this time. I'm not normally this lucky. For the fall release, I had like nothing. And then it was just really sad. So anyway, so that's what I got. I'm really sorry that it's an hour long, but I hope that this helps, and definitely ask any questions if you want. If you don't want to ask any questions, here, my links for Facebook and Instagram are down below. You can private message me there. That's what I have. Thanks very much. Take care. Bye-bye.